众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi sanmiao sanputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi sanmiao sanputoshe.
如上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛, Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. My name is Reverend Heng Shi. Today is Sunday, August the 7th, here in the Gold Coast of Queensland. It's Saturday night, August 6th in California. We are going to be investigating the Flower Garland Sutras, Chapter 20, which is called Verses in Praise from a Palace in the Suyama Heaven. So we get to listen in on the gods. The Bodhisattvas are praising the Buddha. We get to hear the Bodhisattvas sing, get to hear them chant their appreciation of the Buddhas from the palace in the heavens. So how cool is that? What would you rather be doing on a Sunday afternoon? So before we get started, let's continue with our protocols here. And the next thing we're going to do is but let's see, before we do that, let's do our acknowledgement of country and say that from where I'm sitting here in the bush with red parrots looking in, hopefully through my windows, thinking, is it lunchtime? Sorry, fellows, you have to come back after lecture. We say the Kombumerri people of the Ugambe language group practice their spiritual connections to land, to living beings, and to all creation here in this location for tens of thousands of years, the dawn of human civilization. Today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians of this land. We acknowledge them with gratitude as we share this land today, with sorrow for the costs of that sharing, and with hope that we can move to a place of justice and partnership together. We acknowledge their wisdom and their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge as well all First Nations peoples whose sovereignty was never ceded. All right, that's our acknowledgement of country. Now, we're going to do something that has become a custom here at the Dharma Realm Live lecture hall. We're going to invoke spiritual presence with a melody. We get to do our own chanting here. It's not the Suyama Heaven Palace, but the spirit is not different from the Devas and the Bodhisattvas praising the Buddha. We too, we human. Down here in the human realm, in Australia, we're going to do the same and hope you're willing to join us wherever you are watching. So here we go. Opusa, Namo Dhamma, Wayenji, Opusa, Namo Dhamma, Wayenji, Opusa, Namo Dhamma, Opusa. One more time. Namo Today we have a full program. We're going to look at our verses. It is Forest of Wisdom, Bodhisattva, who is doing the praising today. We'll look at 3 of those verses and chant them. And then look into the theme of those verses, which is remarkable. It's about giving. And the theme is generosity. Generosity in particular towards the Buddha. And you think, gee, the Buddha, what does the Buddha need? Why are we giving to the Buddha? Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. To my surprise, when I first encountered real Mahayana Buddhism in the Chinese tradition, based on sutras, based on Master Hua's 50 years of cultivation, I discovered that giving was really important. I had no idea. This was not what I thought. I thought it was all about getting enlightened. And sure enough, the real path towards awakening, you give everything away, most of all yourself, the self. So that's what we're going to do. We've got a song called I Have Enough, which we'll be singing later on. And we have, I was contemplating the quality of giving that we encounter in the sutras. And one of the remarkable things about the giving that the sutras describe is you don't have to be wealthy financially or materially to do the highest kind of giving. You don't have to be a rich man or rich woman to do the finest kind of giving. You have to understand the principle. And when you understand that principle and flip it around, which is giving away as the generosity side as an activity that is the beginning of cultivation, that flip, when you flip that around from wanting, from consumption to contribution, everything changes. And suddenly there's nothing but opportunities to give in the world. And it moves from the giving of coarse material to invisible giving. Invisible giving as the highest kind. So we'll get to that. That's coming up. And we've got some, as I started this whole long sentence with saying, once I was contemplating how I could do it myself, I realized that they talk about 3 kinds of giving in the Dharma: the giving of wealth, the giving of courage, and the giving of Dharma. Courage sometimes translates as fearlessness. So I thought, what have I got? I know what I've got. I have images that I can give right now. As people may or may not know, I look through a camera lens a lot. I photograph. Whenever I step outside the door, I have a camera in my hands because I treasure the value, the gift of sight, the ability to see, the ability to use my eyes to capture the world around me. And cameras let me share what I see with other folks. And now that the internet has such things as Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all, even though I'm not a videographer, I don't do movies, I do single images, but that allows me to share right away what what I see, I can give to others. So I thought, in this time of conflict and turmoil, we're in a time of incredible stress and threats of war now circling the island of Taiwan. This insanity of wanting to kill and destroy in order to grab. We want it, it's ours, so we'll kill everyone. And it's like, that's just so far away from the joy and the serenity and the satisfaction that comes from giving. So I thought, yeah, in a time like this, when nerves could not be stretched tighter without snapping and breaking, it's a good time to give. So I'm going to give some images of serenity that I pulled out of my camera one day. I'm just going to give one walk at noon and what I found, share that with everybody. So that's coming up. That's our previews of coming attractions. So let's start by looking at our text. And I also want to express gratitude to the volunteers who are making it possible for me to communicate the things that I want to say with other friends who speak Chinese and who speak Vietnamese. I'm being translated over through the hard work of others to Chinese and to Vietnamese. So I can speak steadily in English. I don't have to keep shifting. And the words that I say are being translated to two different audiences. And how wonderful that is. What a gift that is. Also, the tech volunteers who give time every week to allow my lecture to go out to Zoom and to YouTube and on further. So that's real. That's giving of consciousness, breath, life, time, effort, energy, and mindfulness to do it right, do it skillfully. So what a gift. Just, I'm humble. And I know that Master Hua would say, this is proper activity. 有功有德, 有福报, for making the Dharma go further. The result of that in the future is that you always get opportunities to hear the Dharma yourself. And when situations arise, a solution that includes wisdom, the right action, including everyone, and long-term benefits, that occurs. That comes to you because you made it possible for others. So giving, the reward of giving is happiness. 助人是快乐之本. Benefiting others, being a benefit to others, lays the foundation for your own happiness. It's true. It's true. And people who don't affirm that truth, sad, because this is the way to make a happy life. It's not to grab, but to share, to give. All right. Here's our text. Let's share the screen here. Here's the text today. This is Hui Lin Pusa, Bodhisattva whose name is Forest of Wisdom. And he says, Wu Liang Wu Shu Jie Xiu Xi Pu Ti Heng 不能知此意，不可得成佛。One who for innumerable, I'm going to raise it up a little pitch. One who for innumerable infinite kalpas cultivates the practices of Bodhi, but who does not know this meaning will never succeed at Buddhahood. Another way to translate, let's look at the Chinese here. Translate, will never be a Buddha. That's another way to say it. So, Wu Liang, Wu Shu Jie. Take a look here, all of you students of Chinese. Wu Liang, no measure, no way to measure it. Wu Shu, no way to enumerate it, no numbers. Jie, eons, kalpas. Jiebo, Chinese for the sound of kalpa in Sanskrit. The Chinese heard it and went jiebo. And so a kalpa measure of time, millions of years. So, no measure, no number of kalpas for that long a time. 修习, cultivate, practice. 菩提. Here's another sound word, bodhi in Sanskrit. The Chinese said, okay, bodhi, bodhi, but we don't know what that means in Chinese, so we won't translate it, we'll give it the sound. Puti, bodhi. Cultivating, puti, bodhi. Heng, noun, practices, methods of practice. Xing, same word, same character, different word, means to walk, to travel. It also means to go, like, yep, good, that goes, that works. Yeah, in Australia they say, how's she going, mate? So this is going, xing. As a noun though here, so cultivating bodhi xing heng, cultivating bodhi practices. Put that together with what we just had. So 4 no measure, no number eons cultivating the practices of bodhi, comma, 不能知此意, don't, not able, know this meaning, unable to know the meaning. Of course, the question, what meaning? Venerable Sir, what meaning are we talking about? 不得成, 不可得成佛, cannot, here's no again, not able, get, be Buddha. Not know this meaning, won't be a Buddha. Huh, interesting. So, put it together. Cultivating the practices of Bodhi for limitless eons, yet if you don't understand the principle that I'm explaining, you will not become a Buddha. So, well, yeah, but I want to become a Buddha, so what meaning do you want me to understand? That's the question. This is interesting. Here's a Bodhisattva who's teaching. He's teaching from being in the spotlight. What's our chapter? Our chapter is 10 Bodhisattvas have followed the Buddha to a palace in a heaven called the Suyama heaven, and it's their turn to, one by one, come down and sing praises to the Buddha. And this is number 2. We started out with Forest of Merit and Virtue, Gongde Lin Pusa. Now we got Hui Lin Pusa, Forest of Wisdom. And he's using the spotlight. He's kneeling there. He's, this is his chance. It's his voice out there giving Dharma. And what did we have before? He's talking about getting to see the Buddha. Those who get to see and hear the pure teacher of devas and humans will leave the suffering, the 3 evil destinies behind. Suffering is done for them if you get to see the Buddha. Before that, he said the Buddha with his bodies and psychic powers shows inconceivable sovereign self-mastery. He doesn't come or go. He explains the Dharma to save sentient beings. So, praise of the Buddha. Getting to see the Buddha. And then he says, if you don't praise the Buddha, if you don't get to see him, you can cultivate along, but you're still going to miss it. Okay, well, I'm curious. That sounds a little unhappy, doesn't it? What's next? 不可思议界，供养无量佛，若能知此意，功德超于彼。 But one who for inconceivable kalpas makes offerings to limitless Buddhas, and does not know this meaning, and does know this meaning, their merit will surpass the former's. Unpack that. Take a look. This verse ties in with the previous verse. 不可思议界, no, not able, think of, eons, same as above, right? That was through limitless count, innumerable eons. Here it's for through eons that you can't conceive of, beyond conception, too many to know about. Gong Yang Wu Liang Fo, making offerings to Buddhas beyond measuring. Ruo Neng Zhi Ci Yi, if you understand this teaching, Gong De, merit and virtue, Chao Yu Bi, will surpass the previous one we talked about. So, Forest of Wisdom is there, palms together, praising the Buddha. He said, the Buddha has psychic powers, inconceivable self-mastery. If you get to see him, you're on the path to Buddhahood. Now, it says, if you might be a cultivator, but you don't connect with the Buddha. If you see him and then make offerings to the Buddha, that's the way to do it. You've got merit that goes beyond the one who cultivates for Bodhi practices but doesn't make a relationship with the Buddha. Okay? What do you get from that? I get from that, he's saying it's important to put yourself in a relationship with wisdom that is open to it and giving to it. There's a kind of a commitment here. Right? Let's do one more. Hold on to that thought. So he's saying, put yourself in a relationship with wisdom. Figure out who the Buddha is and put yourself in a place of generosity towards that figure. Give to the Buddha. Okay, hold that thought. And this is what, as I said in the warm-up to this, in the setup, I didn't know this. This is new to me. We can take it from Forest of Wisdom, Bodhisattva. He knows what he's talking about. Zhi Lin Pusa. Is it Hui Lin Pusa? He knows. And he is guiding us to the path that will succeed for me, for you, anybody who says, yeah, I'm listening to the Dharma because I want to get enlightened. Oops. What did I do here? Just a moment. I goofed my... Great. There we are. Inadvertently, I touched the wrong wire and I messed up my microphone. So he's saying, here's how to become a Buddha. I came to the Dharma because I thought I wanted to get enlightened. And that was what, in my marketplace mind, I thought, ooh, yeah, can I get Satori? In the Zen readings that I did, Alan Watts talked about Satori. Now, I want that. That's worth getting. That's cool. And had no concept that behind my greed for getting something cool, exotic, esoteric, mysterious, that was just the little worm on the end of the hook. Fishing metaphors. That was the frosting on the cake, but there was an entire cake underneath that frosting called the Dharma that the Buddha taught. And I was pulled in by my greed to get enlightened, Satori Kensho. I thought that was going to be cool. And once I got to the door of Gold Mountain Monastery, Master Hua's opening of this sutra provided not just the frosting and the cake, but an entire banquet. And so here's somebody who, for whom it is real, the idea that you could become a Buddha, that I could become a Buddha, not just some airy-fairy enlightenment, that I had no clue what it meant. But the real thing, the real transformation of self and the awakening to the way, the Zheng Dao, this realization of the path, right? That this was possible. This door is open. Here is Master Shenhua coming to America and saying, yeah, in Asia, Buddhism has become institutionalized over the centuries, as every religion does. You get lots of millions of people and millions of dollars invested in monasteries and traditions and hierarchies. Oh my goodness. It's easy to lose sight of the initial impulse, which was how to end suffering. So Master Hua took that kernel, that core, brought it to the West and planted it down in Western soil and said, okay, every day we're going to listen to the Buddha's voice found in the sutras. And I don't speak fluent English, but I'll give you the Chinese and you help me translate. Okay, so we did. Sure enough, here is a wisdom tradition 2,500 years old, very much alive, very much connecting to something in the human heart. And for me personally, 46 years later, it unfolds every day. It's ever fresh, always surprising, and connecting in a wider, more expansive way as my heart opens and expands to accept my own failings and to accept how slow a process it is, getting rid of selfishness, getting rid of stinginess, getting rid of greed, recognizing desire and seeing how desire is actually suffering. That constant awareness that underneath the edge, there's a knife hiding under the honey. You know, you lick it and it's sweet briefly and it cuts your tongue. That's desire. They say how Eskimos kill wolves. Nobody should be killing wolves, but Eskimos, if the wolves are competing for the seals, they both need them to survive. They take a knife and coat it with honey and then freeze it. And the wolves come and lick for the honey, and because it's so cold, they don't notice they're cutting their tongue, and they bleed to death. What a gruesome example, right? But I've heard that's a good analogy for desire. Desire looks good on the surface, and we bite down on it, and we wind up losing all of our wisdom, our own jing, qi, shen, breath, energy, and essence. And so, yeah, that's the hook of Las Vegas. Oh, America's Playground. Come on in, have fun. And Monday morning, with empty pocketbook and our car hawked for money to pay our debts, with a hangover and unhappy heart, we limp home, only to return a year later. America's Playground. Gambling. Oh, luck be a lady tonight. We wind up impoverished and alone. Lady Luck moved on. She didn't spend time with us. It didn't turn out the way it promised. Right? That's desire, right? So here's the Buddha saying, okay, yeah, recognize that. Turn it around and you're in charge. Here's what you do for Bukkha Sui Jie. For inconceivable kalpas, make offerings to limitless Buddhas. And if you can recognize this, your footsteps are on the path to Bodhi. You're better off than the one who is cultivating practices of Bodhi for infinite kalpas, but hasn't recognized the need to put yourself in a relationship with wisdom. Somebody says, I have to go bow to that image? Not necessarily. You have to recognize your potential for wisdom, that it's in your heart. The Buddha is there inside, my potential for wisdom has never been less. But as long as I'm running outside thinking that if I finally get something, I'll make it, score, victory, that's me, I'm a winner, never get there. You have to focus on your own potential. That's the Bodhi resolve. And that's the ultimate meaning of Forest of Wisdom Bodhisattva's verse here. Then he twists it again. What does he say? Turns it again. He says, Wu liang cha zhen bao, man zhong shi yu fo, bu neng zhi ci yi, zhong bu cheng pu ti. If one takes limitless lands full of jewels and gives them to the Buddha, but does not know this meaning, will ultimately not realize Bodhi. Okay, what's our method? Here we go, our technique. Wu liang cha zhen bao, no measure, same as up above here. Remember we had Wu liang right here, without limit, without measure. Measureless, cha. Cha is a land. Kshetra was the original Sanskrit. And a cha is a measure, it's a geographical measure. So just say land. What have you got close by? We have Queensland is one of the states of Australia, New South Wales and Victoria, and the Commonwealth District, and the Capital District. Then there's South Australia, then there's Western Australia, and there's Northern Territories, there's Tasmania, all these different states. What do you have? Where are you close to? Have you got Oregon and Washington, and have you got California, or maybe you've got British Columbia and Alberta and Saskatchewan, and what have you got close by? Limitless states, countries, zhenbao, treasures. Fill limitless amounts of geographical locations with treasures. What is that? Avatamsaka Sutra way of saying, take a lot of good stuff. Take a lot of jewels. Man zhong shi yu fo, filled up with them, shi, give them to the Buddha. Bu neng zhi ci yi, bu neng zhi ci yi, same line here. If you do that, but you don't understand this principle, zhong bu cheng pu ti, in the end, ultimately, finally, you will not realize the Buddha's awakening, Bodhi. You won't get enlightened. Excuse me, isn't that a contradiction? Didn't we just talk about Gongyang Wuliang Fo, making offerings to limitless Buddhas, but still understanding this meaning, but then understanding this meaning and your virtue goes beyond? What's the difference here? Take a look. Somebody who for innumerable infinite kalpas cultivates Bodhi, but still doesn't know this meaning about the value of developing a relationship of generosity to giving, that person won't succeed. Something's missing. However, he says, let's cure that, let's fix that. What's missing? But if you go for limitless eons and you make offerings to limitless Buddhas and you do know the meaning, you'll have more merit than the previous one. And then look at the curveball. However, let's get this straight. If you take all kinds of treasures and give them to the Buddha, but you still don't know the meaning, you're not going to succeed. You won't get Bodhi. You won't wake up. What's the meaning? What's the magic meaning? The magic meaning is what Master Xuanhua called the mind ground, Xindi Famen. This is, I think, the heart of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's 10 vows. It's the heart of the Mahayana and the Bodhisattva path. And that's the idea that giving to the Buddha is good, even though the last verse said, if you give it to the Buddha, but you don't understand nei, the inner virtue, you're still not there. What does it mean? We have to cultivate the mind. That's the heart of it. And how do you cultivate the mind? You give to the Buddha, no mistake. You do. You establish that relationship with your own wisdom, but recognize that the work is done invisibly inside. Everybody quit. Are you still there? You still listening? But we got it all straight. Woo. Namo Guan Shu Yin Bodhisattva. 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 Guan 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 Yin Bodhisattva. And not only are we going to chant the name of Guan Yin Bodhisattva, here's our chapter 20 practice. We've been doing this as the, let's see, got to share my screen. As the Bodhisattvas have arrived here in the Suyama Heaven Palace, we've been chanting names of the 7 Tatagatas. That Dharma, this Dharma just popped up while, hold on, got to make it a little smaller, during this lecture series. I didn't expect this, and it was a gift from the universe. So I think people have enjoyed learning how to do this. And if you have any animals around you, you've got pets at home, if you've got parrots out on the porch, as I do, parrots on my porch, recite more often. If you're connected to your ancestors, recite for them. Children going to school, recite for them. Business friends trying to succeed in the business world, recite for them. Or if that's you, recite for success in business. These are the names of 7 Tatagatas, and they're just the way the Bodhisattvas in the Suyama Heaven Palace are chanting. We too can transform any environment we're in into a relationship with the Buddha based on praise. Here we go. Chanting the names of the 7 Tatagatas. Should we try 3 times through? Namo Do Bao Ru Lai, Namo Bao Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Miao Sha Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Guang Bo Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Li Bu Wei Ru Lai, Namo Gan Lu Wang Ru Lai, Namo Amito Ru Lai. Number 2, here we go, second time. Namo Do Bao Ru Lai, Namo Bao Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Namo Guang Bo Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Li Bu Wei Ru Lai, Namo Gan Lu Wang Ru Lai, Namo Amito Ru Lai. One more. Mo Do Bao Ru Lai, Namo Bao Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Miao Sha Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Guang Bo Sheng Ru Lai, Namo Li Bu Wei Ru Lai, Namo Gan Lu Wang Ru Lai, Namo Amito Ru Lai. Chanting the names of the 7 Tatagatas for the benefit of all living beings. There we go. All right. I'm now going to step away briefly, and we're going to listen to something special. We're going to be listening to our teacher and founder, the Venerable Master Xuanhua, singing, chanting, another kind of praise of wisdom called the Song of Enlightenment.
不出妄想不求真，无名实性即复性，幻化空生即法身，法身较了无一物，本愿自性天真佛，无愿空去来，三度水泡须出没，正实相无人法，刹那灭切恶彼呀，绕将往于狂中生，自照八舍尘沙界，尊教了如来禅，六度万行体正圆，能以明明有六趣，教后空空无大千，无罪福无损益，寂灭心中莫问你，必来尘间未曾没，今日分明须剖析。虽无念虽无生，饶是无生无不生，换取机关无人问，求何四功早完成。方此大摩巴着，寂灭心中虽隐着，诸行无常一切空，即是如来大圆教。决定说表真僧，有人不亲不肯认清正，直接根源佛所言，再也寻知我不能。摩尼主
人不识如来藏理勤修德，六般神用空不空，一颗圆光晒非晒。What were we listening to? We were listening to our teacher and founder, Shang Xuan Xiaohua Lao Shang, reciting from memory the Song of Enlightenment, the Zheng Dao Ge, Song of Realizing the Way. How amazing. I personally recorded that on my little Walkman in 1985 in Vancouver, British Columbia. And what a fortuitous chance to 17 minutes it took Shifu to recite the entire 63 verses of the Zheng Dao Ge, including much laughter from we who were sitting around him on the sofa at Gold Buddha Monastery as Shifu recited the Zheng Dao Ge. And so from that experience, how many of you have watched somebody recite something for 17 minutes from memory? And that's, a drop in the bucket compared to everything that Master Hua had available to chant from memory, including 11 medical texts and the entire 4 books of Confucius and multiple sutras, and so pretty astonishing. Anyway, every Saturday in California, Saturday here in Australia, and Taiwan and China, Malaysia, Singapore, and Friday noon in California, at 1 o'clock now, I'm explaining the Zheng Dao Ge, Song of Awakening, that particular text, by master from Yongjia in China. His name was Xuanjue, Yongjia, it's called Yongjia, the Great Master Yongjia, but Yongjia is the place name. So I would be the Great Master from Toledo or from Berkeley or from the Gold Coast, maybe. The small master, the non-master from Benogan, that would be me, the monk from Benogan. So anyway, you're welcome to join in, and let's see, I'm going to preview, go to my browser here and type in Berkeley Monastery, TRY, there we go, berkeleymonastery.org. And in the Berkeley Monastery, if you scroll down to the events happening, there is a Song of Enlightenment lecture and a way to register. So I'll pop that into the chat box and see here into our Zoom chat box, and Jerry, our faithful Sizop, can pass that on, berkeleymonastery.org. That's a way to join in, and maybe our Chinese and Vietnamese translators can do the same there. It's in the chat box. That is a way to listen in to the weekly lectures on the Zhengdao Ge, and we always start by listening to Shifu's tape. Dun jiao liao, ru lai chan, liu du wan heng, ti zhong yuan, meng li ming ming you liu qu, qiao hou kong kong wu da qian. It goes on. Wonderful. We're in the process of translating it and translating it as a song. We have multiple musical settings for Zhengdao Ge. It's the first decision was it must be sung. Zhengdao Ge, Song of Awakening, is a song. It's not a poem. It's not an essay. It's not a discourse, a teaching, a Dharma talk. It contains all of those things, full of Dharma, but it's a song. And he sang it. Master Yongjia, probably, my guess he was tuned into the community in the monastery. He was a teaching monk who lived in monasteries, and monasteries are entire ecosystems full of people coming and going, from the monks to the laity, from the guests to the families, to people making offerings, to the faithful Buddhists, to the politicians who come in to get some offerings of their own, taxation and whatever, and to the vendors who are bringing in the rice and the oil for the kitchen, and the wood sellers, and the children playing because their parents came in to bow and the kids are out in the courtyard. All of that teeming life in a monastery in China, full of songs, plus the daily ceremonies, the liturgies that go on all day long. So it's an environment full of music and full of sounds. This is a footnote, a digression, but I have spent time analyzing the aural, A-U-R-A-L, the aural, meaning the audio scape, the soundscape of a monastery. And it's astonishing. From these sounds like this, going in the Buddha hall, bowing, followed by a talk on the wooden fish, and then a talk, and then a boom of the drum, and then the Han board outside, meant to be heard over the entire monastery, the talk, talk, signaling the monks what activity is happening next. And you can get by and never miss anything in a monastery, none of the scheduled ceremonies, with your eyes closed, because it's designed, the monastic community is designed to communicate via sound, percussion sounds. So how wonderful is that, right? So yeah, do tune in to the Zhengdao Ge if you like. Master Yongjia heard those sounds, captured them in his song. So we, in turn, those of you who don't want to sing Chinese music, we're trying our best to make it Western music. And we've got two different modes. One is what we're calling the high lonesome sound. It's we're pitching it kind of the sound of what's called old time music or roots music, from typically from the Appalachians, which originally was music from the Celtic cultures of Ireland, Scotland, and England, came with immigrants to America, landed in on the East Coast, and then traveled to the mountains of West Virginia and North Carolina and Georgia and Kentucky and Tennessee, and kept those old, centuries-old sounds, didn't change from that point on, called mountain music. That's one musical mode, and it sounds, they say, high and lonesome. Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass, kind of based it on that, based his creation of bluegrass on the roots there. That's one. And it suits verses that talk about emptiness, that talk about, setting it aside, putting it down, 放下,看空放下, seeing through it, putting it down, letting go. That suits very well. But the Song of Enlightenment also contains praises of the wonder of psychic powers, the wonders of wisdom, the water of great compassion overflowing and filling the world with inclusion and joy. That's there. For that kind of verse, we have a mode that we're calling Sunday Go to Meeting Church Hymn. And it's major scale, not minor scale. It's very uplifting. It's kind of innocent. And that suits certain verses. So we're setting the musical settings of Zhengdaoge into two different musical modes, depending on the content of the verse. So this is all a shameless plug for those of you who have some time. If you're in Northern Hemisphere and you'd like to listen on a Friday, in that part of the world, if you can listen in at 1 o'clock on a Friday. If you're here down under and the Southern Hemisphere or in Asia, across the date line, listen in on Saturday mornings. Of course, that means in China, it's 4 a.m. In Taiwan, it's 4 a.m. Malaysia, Singapore. Sorry about that. But it's good, something to listen to in the morning, get you out of bed. All right, there we go. Now, what is the meaning that Forest of Merit and Virtue Bodhisattva, Forest of Wisdom Bodhisattva, wanted us to understand? He said, you can cultivate Bodhi practices, but if you don't know that meaning, you're never going to be a Buddha. And he says, however, if you make offerings to limitless Buddhas, your merit and virtue goes beyond. That's something you want to do. And then he seems to contradict himself. He says, if you take countries full of jewels and offer them to the Buddha, but you don't know this meaning, you're never going to succeed. You won't realize Bodhi. You're going to miss it. What is the difference? What's he talking about? Okay, I identified, excuse me one moment. I identified the mind ground as the difference. The mind ground is the idea that cultivation is done internally. That the idea of Xindi Famen, the mind ground, think of the metaphor of a garden. So what is a garden? Gardens are often reclaimed. Are everybody aware of urban gardens? Those of you who live in cities? That's a flourishing phenomenon. Detroit, a city that I have spent lots and lots of time in, growing up in Toledo. Detroit was 60 miles north, and then spent 4 years at the university, another 30 miles north of Detroit. Detroit, because of the recession, many neighborhoods just collapsed. in Detroit. People moved out. They couldn't afford to live in their homes anymore. Banks foreclosed on them. Automotive plants left Michigan, which is primarily a manufacturing state where all the cars came from. And within a decade, all those jobs were gone. People lost their homes. Banks foreclosed, and people had to leave suddenly, and they couldn't manage to pay their mortgages. So the houses just rotted where they stood. And thieves would come in and tear out the walls and take the pipes to resell the metal in the pipes, the copper pipes. They would steal the cement steps leading up to the front door, steal that. So here was this structure with no way to enter it and then no plumbing. Worthless. No one can live there. You can't live inside. So what happened was houses, entire neighborhoods got bulldozed. Because there was no way to inhabit them, the firefighters said, we're not going to service these neighborhoods. Water was cut off. No water flowing to the neighborhood. If it burns, it burns. We're not going to go save it because nobody lives there. So these neighborhoods and I'm talking about Detroit, but this phenomenon happened throughout city after city in what's called the Rust Belt, America's Midwest. And so what happened was bulldoze the neighborhood, let the ground go back to nature. Well, this happened. So another generation passed through. This is a phenomenon that started in the 80s and progressed now 40 years. And the same way that the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea went back to nature and species replenished themselves there that hadn't been seen for centuries. Likewise, right in the center of these sprawling urban towns, land came up that has now been reconverted to urban gardens. Enterprising people saw this catastrophe and said, this is an opportunity. 危机变成机会, right? Chinese, 危机 is a disaster, a crisis. 机会, flip it around, and it's an opportunity. So you take fallow land, used to be somebody's home. Now we dig it up, rototill it, boom, 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 boom. Turn the ground over, then get a spade, get a shovel, and take the big clumps and make them small clumps, and then add in what are called amendments. Add in potassium and add in phosphorus and the things you need to fertilize soil. Put down your seeds, watch the weeds, move the weeds out of there, pick the growth that you like, and let the sun come in. Put a fence around it so the kids on their bikes and the cats don't get in there and dig up stuff and pee on it. And you've got food that you can eat, flowers that you can enjoy. And it's what used to be wasteland is now a place where you want to spend time, a place where you and the earth interact in a symbiotic relationship that brings forth possibilities for life and flourishing. That's gardening. How magical is that? And you become, one of the joys of gardening is recognizing the wisdom of the earth and cycles of the earth. It's all there waiting to be discovered. Do you get the metaphor? The mind ground. The mind ground, my mind, your mind, the human mind, just the same. What was there before I knew to tend the mind ground, was a lot of garbage. Everything that I ever watched or listened to or thought, those tracks and traces are still there. All that stuff. I didn't believe it until I meditated in a Chan retreat in Kyoto, Japan. And for the first 4 days of sitting still, 8 hours a day, out came this outpouring of TV advertisements, of songs that I had listened to, all the records that I'd ever played. 13 entire Broadway musicals came pouring out of my mind, just this constant stream. I thought I was supposed to get enlightened. I was just replaying all my mind tapes stored in the mind ground. 4 days it took to run through all that stuff that I had recorded in my mind. Who knew, right? When I did my bowing pilgrimage, I would bow down and suddenly I would be revisiting some scary, embarrassing experience that I had had as a youth that was locked into my inner tape library, played back. Oh my goodness. All that stuff. That's the rocks and the timber and the broken glass and the garbage on the fallow land that you have to clean out of the mind ground to make a garden inside, to make a place in your mind that you want to live. That's cultivation. Okay, that is, as Master Hua said, we are tending the mind ground. 心地法门. Okay? So, when Forest of Wisdom, Bodhisattva, says, if you don't know this meaning, 不若不知此意, if you don't know this meaning, then simply making offerings to the Buddha, a good thing to do and not a mistake. However, it's not enough if you want to get to Bodhi. You have to actually go inside and work on your own mind. Okay, we're going to switch from chapter 20 of the Avatamsaka now to chapter 40 of the Avatamsaka. We're going to slide ahead in the sutra to understand 此意. What is it? This meaning, the meaning that Forest of Wisdom is praising. Okay, let me find my, here we go. That's what we're looking for. How do we cultivate the giving of offerings the way the Avatamsaka teaches it? Notice, okay, first we have to, I'm not quite there yet, not quite ready. We have, here we go. There it is. Here is chapter 40. So, translator friends, Cliff and friends, I didn't prepare the Chinese for 普贤菩萨十大愿望第三广修供养. That's, I didn't prepare it, I'm sorry. So you can paraphrase, you don't have to do the exact text. Okay, take a look here. I'm going to read it quickly and then show you how this is 此意 from Forest of Wisdom. Here we go. Again, good man, I'll tell you about making great offerings. In every mode of dust in all Buddha lands, throughout the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time, to the ends of the Dharma realm and the realm of space, there are Buddhas as many as fine dust motes in all worlds. Each Buddha is surrounded by an ocean-wide assembly of bodhisattvas. With the power of Samantabhadra's practices and vows and my own faith and understanding, I see them as though we were face to face. To each Buddha, I make offerings of, okay, pay attention, superb and wonderful gifts such as clouds of flowers, clouds of garlands, clouds of celestial music, clouds of divine canopies, clouds of heavenly garments, okay, as well as varieties of incense from the heavens. Oh, by the way, am I sharing this? I hope I am. I need to check. Excuse me 1 second. I'm not sharing it. I'm not sharing it. Bad habit. There we go. To each Buddha, starting over. First, I'm going to sneeze. To each Buddha, I make offerings of superb and wonderful gifts, such as clouds of flowers, clouds of garlands, clouds of celestial music, clouds of divine canopies, clouds of heavenly garments, as well as varieties of incense from the heavens, perfumes, scented balms, fragrant powders. Okay, now I'm going to stop right here briefly. These are the things that Samantabhadra says are good as gifts to the Buddhas. Point them out. Flowers, flower garlands, music, a canopy, an umbrella, clothes, robes, as well as incense, 3 kinds, perfumed incense, balms for rubbing, fragrant powders, Different, so powdered incense, stick incense, incense creams. Now, look at the size. Each cloud of gifts, such as these, rivals in height Mount Sumeru, the king of mountains. So, big. Further, I present the Buddha with lighted lamps of many kinds, butter lamps, oil lamps, lamps of perfumed oil. The wick of each lamp is as large as Mount Sumeru. The oil each lamp contains would fill a large ocean. I constantly make offerings to the Buddhas of gifts such as these. Okay, so pause here. The first thing he says is, here's how we make offerings to Buddhas. We start with material stuff. And one of the things I love about this is pretty much everybody has access to flowers. The gifts that Samantabhadra, who knows, the gifts that he recommends Sudana, who he's talking to, or us, the gifts he recommends that we offer to Buddhas are things that you can offer without being rich. You don't have to be wealthy to make sublime offerings to the Buddha of the finest stuff. Now, he says, the quality that comes from the heavens, but the quality that comes from your side yard is perfect. Dandelions that grow in the lawn, if you find nice ones and offer them up with respect, perfect, recommended kind of offering. As well as things like music. Offer music to the Buddha, right? Offer lights to the Buddha. Offer incense to the Buddha. Everybody can. It's not a question of wealth or, exotic that makes it a suitable offering to the Buddha. Okay? Now, share again. He says, put that one away and bring this one up. Oh, come back. There we go. That's where we were. Lamps. Different kinds of lamps. Okay, now, all right, that's the stuff. Ready? Here is the mind ground key. This is the meaning that Samantabhadra and Forest of Wisdom wants us to know. Good man, of all offerings, the gift of Dharma is supreme, which includes the offering of cultivating according to instructions, there's one. The offering of benefiting all beings, that's 2. 3, the offering of gathering in all beings, that's 3. 4, the offering of diligently cultivating good roots, 5. The offering of not forsaking the deeds of bodhisattvas, and 6. The offering of never renouncing the resolve for Bodhi. Good man, the merit and virtue created by making the above offerings, although immeasurable, meaning the stuff, the flowers, the lamps, the incense, when compared to the merit and virtue of offering even a single thought of Dharma, the second kind, does not equal 100th part, 1,000th part, 100,000th part, neither 1 part in kodis and nayutas or 1 part in kalas, 1 part arrived at by reckoning, by calculation, not 1 part that can be demonstrated by comparison, or even a single part in an Upanishad, meaning you compare the 2 kinds, the second kind is more merit and virtue. Why not? Here's the answer. Because all Buddhas honor the Dharma, and because cultivation according to instructions gives birth to every Buddha. When bodhisattvas make an offering of Dharma, they cultivate to perfection, making offerings to all thus come ones. Cultivation in this way is the true offering, a vast, great, supreme offering. Okay, his answer is, if you cultivate the giving of Dharma, you are on the path to Buddhahood. That's where Buddhas come from. What is the giving of Dharma? We just saw it, these 5 things. Cultivating according to instructions. In other words, doing what your teacher says, doing what the Buddha said. What did our teacher say? He said, Bujang, don't fight, don't contend. Bhutan, don't be greedy, give instead. Buchyo, don't seek, be satisfied instead. Be content. Practice contentment. 不自私, don't be selfish. Be 大公无私, unselfish. 不自利, don't only know to benefit yourself like a baby. The whole world revolves around you. Instead, open your heart to giving to others. And 不打妄语, don't lie. That's what our teacher said. That's cultivating according to instructions. That is the highest gift of Dharma. It's invisible, but it's everything, right? 2, benefiting all beings. So what does this mean? This means pattern your life, put your life around the focus of service. People are complaining about Instagram creating artificial expectations that everybody on Instagram shows their best, their beautiful vacation to Bali, to Hawaii, right? And you never see the sadness, the ordinariness, the boringness, the everydayness, the humdrum, the not perfectness. And as a result, people always walk around feeling like they're insufficient, they're not enough, they're deficient, right? So instead of looking to Instagram and feeling like I need to get more, I need to get more, I need to get more, think, nah, I'm going to post to Instagram how I carried sandwiches out onto Shattuck Avenue and handed them to folks who were sitting there hungry and lost and lonely. I'm going to change the sheets on my parents' bed and wash them before my mom even knows that I did her laundry for her. What? How amazing. I'm going to look at my brother's bike and fill the tires, so when he rides, he feels more comfortable instead of fighting him for his bike. I'm going to, sit down with my dad and ask what I can do that makes the work around the house easier. Does he need the grass cut? Does he need the car washed? Find a way to ease my dad's burden, right? Service. What happens instead, do pictures of post those pictures on Instagram? People will go, amazing. Did you see what they posted? And you'll have this smile. And what goes away is FOMO, fear of missing out. How much of social media is based upon the idea that somebody else is having fun? You're actually missing fun. So you got to post pictures of when you kind of had fun so everybody will think you're having fun. Just let that go and have real fun by focusing on the folks who enter your 3-foot circle around you, people you deal with every day, who by serving them, they can have a better life. They can be more at ease. They can feel noticed. They can feel cared for. They can feel comfortable inside their own skin because you took the time to listen to them. You took the time to be kind to them. You took the time to share the wealth that you have with them, reducing your share, increasing their share. How wonderful. That is the joy of what's called giftivism, radically generous acts that can change the world. And just that, by saying, no, I don't need more, I'm not missing out, I want to make sure somebody else feels connected and cared for. That's the offering of benefiting all beings, service. And as a result, oh my goodness, the joy that results in your heart from giving to others is the real thing. That's the mind ground cultivation that Forest of Wisdom says, if you know this meaning, even if you don't make offerings to limitless Buddhas, you're making offerings to limitless Buddhas where it counts. The offering of gathering in beings. Gathering in, shosho in Chinese. What does it mean? It means connecting people to their own wisdom, opening the mind ground to them, showing people how the Dharma functions to bring us back home. What does it mean to be gathered in? Your home. You feel like you belong. I'm where I belong. I don't need to be anywhere else. I'm not too late. I didn't miss out. I'm included. I'm not a loser. I'm not alone. Because why? The real place where I'm most at home is my own mind. In that clean, well-lit, safe place that I have created inside my own mind through cultivating the mind ground, through turning that fallow side lot where a house used to be in Detroit or in Cleveland or in Akron or in Dayton or in Columbus or in Cincinnati, wherever you are. Those are all Ohio cities. Name your state. Scranton, Erie, Jersey City, wherever you belong, wherever you are. There are places that are, you look at them and your eye doesn't stop because there's nothing there. It's just a side lot. Go to that place, clean it up, turn it into a fertile garden, and that's a place where you want to be. Your home. That's where you're most yourself, where you're most comfortable. Do that inside your mind, and you will never not be at home. 得其所在, 得其所在, as Shifu would say. You're right where you belong. That's this meaning that Hui Lin Pusa wants us to recognize, right? If you understand that meaning, you are invisibly practicing the giving of Dharma. The giving of Dharma moves from the visible to the invisible. That's the meaning. Okay, so that's gathering in beings. Make them home in their own mind. That's where the cultivation starts, right? The offerage of diligently cultivating good roots. What are shangun? Good roots, wholesome qualities. Kindness, best one. Kindness, generosity. Primo, numero uno, 第一义地最好的一番いいですね。それは。So, yeah, this is cultivating good roots. There's paramitas, so generosity and living according to guidelines and patience and energy and stillness and serenity and wisdom. Ooh, those are, a garden. That's a garden of priceless flowers that every single one of us can harvest, can be ours, simply by saying, these are good roots. Plant them down and these forests that arises from there. It's a place where everybody wants to be. Okay, 2 more. The offering of not forsaking the deeds of bodhisattvas. Self-explanatory. You engage in the deeds of bodhisattvas. What is it about bodhisattvas' deeds? It's different in timeline. The scale, you don't get tired of it. You keep on going. And wow, bodhisattvas are, from the point of view of the marketplace, pretty much losers. Why? 众生无边誓愿度. Even though living beings are boundless, I'm going to take all of them across. I'm going to take them across. I'm going to find a way to get them to safe in their own well-lit, clean space in their own minds. A place where they go for refuge to the wisdom of their own minds. That's hard to do. And after one is successfully brought to safety, once they find their refuge, pick up another one. Start over. Ayah. That's a lot. Bodhisattva's bad at math. Even though living beings are infinite, I'm going to save them all, they say. What an incredible, what a vow. How amazing. Then, finally, the offering of never renouncing the resolve for Bodhi. Never quitting on your goal, your ultimate goal. It says, 上成佛道，下化众生. Ultimately, I'm going to become a Buddha. That's my goal. I'm going to maximize that potential for wisdom, and I'm going to do it 下化众生, immediately by setting to work to take beings across, one by one by one. If my bad habit is anger, I'm going to be calm instead, be patient. Just wait it out, reclaim that energy. If my bad habit is jealousy, I'm going to find a way to approve of and support others' good qualities. If my bad habit is, what would it be? Stinginess, I'm going to give. I'm going to find a way to give. Okay, there we go. That is giving according to Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. That's right from chapter 40. We're using that to illustrate chapter 20, where Forest of Wisdom says, yeah, you can give all, countries full of jewels, but if you don't know to tend your own garden, you'll have a lot of blessings, but they will run out ultimately, and you start over again. However, if you understand this meaning, you can become a Buddha. So thank you, Shifu, for illustrating that. It's not easy to give all the time. One of my most embarrassing and unforgettable stories was there are people on the chat channel who don't need to be there, so we need to actively monitor. Maybe just block them as they come on. One day, I determined that I was hung up on food. One of my attachments in this life and probably in future lives is matter of food. I grew up in a gourmet household. My dad was a chef and wanted to pair wines with the right fish and with the right meat, and red wine, white wine, and all of these things. And so he combined that with being a diabetic, and he couldn't eat anything sweet. So I grew up as a kid with a sweet tooth because dessert for us was very simple. I didn't have cakes and pies and ice cream and the way all my buddies did. So combination, I had a whole thought of food. So I carried that into my pilgrimage. And at one point, I remember reading about how real cultivators would eat food that was not even seasoned. I thought, okay, I'm going to break desire. I'm going to cut off desire. I'm going to do it by eating unseasoned food. So kind-hearted lay people would bring out food, and at this point, I decided on the spot that I was not going to eat no oil, no salt. I was going to get rid of oil and salt from my food, only unseasoned food. And I would reject offerings, and people would go, well, let's see, already you don't eat meat, you don't eat garlic, you don't eat onions, you don't eat fish, you don't eat eggs, you're not eating dairy, and you don't want any salt and oil? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to offer you food you couldn't eat. Let me run back home. And causing so much trouble. False thought as a false thought. I'm going to be special. No unseasoned. I'm going to only unseasoned food. So we got to Gold Wheel Monastery on 6th Street in LA. That temple isn't there any longer. And I was being grumpy about food offerings and pouting when the food wouldn't show up that I could eat. These lay people were starving me, being totally outrageous. And my companion, Heng Chao, Marty, would just roll his eyes and just say, please eat, trying their best. You shouldn't, what a burden you're putting on these people. So I was determined I was going to be more bitter, more ascetic than everyone else. And of course, deeply making myself unhappy and setting up incredible expectations and putting a huge burden on the poor, kind-hearted lay people who were trying to feed us food that we could eat. So false thinking, right? This is extreme. This is leaving the middle way. And also making myself unavailable as a field of blessings where people could make offerings and keep the Sangha alive. So when Heng Chao and I were in LA, Shifu would come down to visit us about once every 3 months, every 90 days or so. We would get a weekend visit from Master Hua, and how wonderful. That was just incredible. And so Shifu heard that I was on this kick of no oil, no salt in my food, completely unseasoned food. And so he knew that. And one day, when Shifu was there, the lay people didn't have time to make special offerings to me. Unique, to put a space on the stove and special pots that don't have any oil and salt. They didn't have time because Shifu was there. They were hosting lots of guests. And so I was there and I was unhappy. And the food, I ate rice, white rice that day. And so a layman came down and he said, here, Shifu wants you to have special food today. So here is your meal. And I looked and here was, unseasoned food. And I could eat this. And so I ate that. And I thought, well, that's nice. And I ate it. And then the layman came down and I said, by the way, where did this food come from? He said, oh, that was actually Shifu's meal. He didn't eat today because he wanted to be sure that you had food you could eat. And I realized that I had just eaten Shifu's meal and that he didn't eat that day so that I could get my special food. And just the weight of that landed on my head. And I went up and bowed to Shifu, and he was inside his room. I was bowing to the door. He was inside. I was outside. And I was so embarrassed and so mortified that because of my false thinking and wanting to be special and different and competing, basically, it was aggressive, wanted to be number one, that I had deprived Shifu of any fuel that day. And Shifu came out to speak Dharma in the afternoon, and he said, I don't know how many days I've fasted. I take every opportunity to give living beings, and I don't care if it hurts me. He said, my only concern is that living beings are not happy, he said. And I felt this big. And after that, I said, okay, maybe being a no oil, no salt, that might be an extreme. Maybe I'll just eat whatever people offer me that doesn't break my precepts and be grateful. Gratitude. And one measure, actually, of whether whether your garden that you're building in the mind ground is well built, is, does your cultivation increase your affliction or decrease it? That extreme of demanding that lay people make offerings of no food, no oil, no salt, didn't make me happy. It increased my afflictions when I didn't get what I thought I needed. Self was there. There was contention, there was greed, there was seeking, selfishness, wanting benefits, and a lot of unhappiness. So, man, oh man, watch that mind ground. So, thank you, Forest of Wisdom, Bodhisattva, for your 3 wise verses today. Subtle. Giving is the practice of happiness, indeed. I'm now going to invite the bhikshus at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery to please share with us. I'm going to share my screen here. What is going on at the Berkeley
Monastery? We're actually in Redwood Vihara.
Jinwei, sure, you're at Redwood Vihara. Great.
Yes.
Okay, website is up.
Many trees. Yeah, we have a lot to announce. The first is online Ulambana ceremony, a wonderful opportunity to cultivate generosity on behalf of our parents and relatives, and not just from this life, but many lifetimes back. This is one of the most important ceremonies of the year, and we'll hold it on this Saturday for 2 weeks from now, August 20th, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And you can register for the link, and everything here, what you need, you can read. And if you have any questions, of course, you can email us. So this Ulambana ceremony, August 20th.
Okay.
This is monthly event. August 28th will be monthly dedication of merit from the group who recite the Great Compassion mantra since the pandemic started. So over 300 people over the globe recite Great Compassion mantra every day, and this is once a month. We meet all together and recite and dedicate merit from the whole month of recitation.
All right. Yeah. What else we got here? This is special. There's something very special.
Yeah, it is very special. Interfaith blood drive only once a year. Again, if someone wants to perfect Dana Paramita, perfection of giving, this is the way to do. August 17th, organized with our Jewish friends, Nativot Shalom congregation, with Christians, with Muslims, and friends from Vedanta Society, from Hindu tradition. And you can click here, is there to schedule an appointment. I think Red Cross actually give out more slots. So it's still open spaces, and I highly recommend it and encourage everyone. This is really a matter and really count, especially during the COVID time. Every 2 seconds, as we can read here, someone in the US needs blood. And the one donation can save up to 3 lives. And it's very simple and safe at the same time. So they're following all the COVID protocols. And again, if any questions, or concerns, or please email us and we will answer all the questions. And also we hold everyday practices, morning ceremonies at 4 a.m., noon recitation, 12:30, the Jin Fosher, recite the Buddha's name, for 30 minutes every day. And we have evening ceremony, 6:30. And Friday, I believe is 1 p.m. the lecture of Rabbi Heng on the Song of Enlightenment from 1 to 2 p.m. And yeah, I think this is it.
Okay, great. All right, much appreciated. Lots going on at Berkeley. There will be also at CTTB Live YouTube channel, there will be a lecture tomorrow on Ulambana. This is the City of 10,000 Buddhas Sunday night lecture, 7:30 p.m. Here in Australia, it's 12:30 on Monday. A special lecture on Ulambana, the Buddhist holiday of filial respect coming up. So that's tomorrow. And I would like to invite everybody now to join me in transferring merit. And we do that with a mantra, which also in a time of pandemic gives us a genuine Mahayana Buddhist power tool, a way to generate healing energy from our own hearts. It's that same mind ground place where we generate this is the sounds of medicine Buddha. Let's see. Question. Let's see. Is there any way that we can give a donation for our parents' names for the Ulambana festival? Jinwei Shi, are you still there?
Yes.
Any way to give a donation for our parents' names? Can we set up highways for the Ulambana?
Maybe we can discuss.
We have 2 weeks to go. We'll let you know. Good question.
Yeah, we can maybe answer this question next week. We can.
Yeah, whether we can set up highways. Okay, thank you for that question. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're reciting Medicine Buddha's mantra. This is the energy of Yao Shifu, Medicine Buddha, lapis lazuli light, who dispels calamities and lengthens life. We also use it to transfer merit, so let's do that together. Here we go. Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Adyata Aisaji Aisaji Aisaja Samukate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Aisaja Guru Maidurya Prabha Rajaya Tagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Yata Om Aisaji Aisaji Aisaja Samukate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Aisaja Guru Maidurya Prabha Rajaya Tagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Yata Om. Last chance. Aisaji Aisaji Aisaja Samukate Swaha. So, when was the last time you were invited to chant a Sanskrit mantra together with friends online? Rare opportunity, not one to miss. Bow to the Buddhas, here we go. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. That'll do it for us for today. See you all next week. Amitofo. Bye, everybody.